Cosmic Checkmate, Chapter 1, The Zalax Onslaught. The year is 2042. Earth, a beacon of unity and technological prowess, basks in the glow of a golden age. Nations have set aside their differences, united under the banner of the United Earth Space Force, UESF. The hum of advanced machinery echoes through gleaming cities, and the promise of a brighter future fills the air. But on the edge of the solar system, a shadow looms. A vast armada of alien vessels, their hulls shimmering with an eerie luminescence, emerges from the cosmic void. Their sleek, bio-organic design contrasts sharply with humanity's angular ships. At the helm of a colossal command vessel, Supreme Commander Zalax, a towering insectoid figure with multifaceted eyes, observes the blue marble of Earth on a holographic display. "Such primitive technology," Zalax hissed in the guttural tongue of his species, his mandibles clicking in disdain. "They will be no match for our might." News of the alien arrival sends shockwaves across Earth. Panic grips the populace as the UESF scrambles to deploy its fleet. Lieutenant Anya Petrova, a seasoned pilot with a reputation for both skill and recklessness, straps herself into the cockpit of her fighter, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and adrenaline. The battle is swift and brutal. Human missiles and lasers streak towards the alien ships, only to be deflected by an invisible barrier, an energy shield of unknown origin. The UESF fleet, outmatched and outgunned, suffers devastating losses. Anya, her fighter weaving through a chaotic ballet of laser fire, catches a glimpse of hope. As her missiles impact an alien vessel, she sees a brief flicker in its shield, a momentary weakness. "Command, this is Petrova," she radios, her voice strained. "I saw a fluctuation in their shields. There's a way through." Her warning is met with silence. "Command, do you copy?" Anya repeats, her voice rising in desperation. "Negative, Petrova," a dispassionate voice replies. "Sensors indicate no shield fluctuations. Continue your attack." Anya grits her teeth, a wave of frustration and anger washing over her. But she obeys, knowing that disobeying orders would be pointless. The Zalax Armada advances relentlessly, breaking through Earth's orbital defenses. Their landing craft descend upon major cities, unleashing hordes of bioengineered soldiers. Chaos erupts as civilians flee in terror, their screams echoing through the smoke-filled streets. In the war room, UESF commanders stare at the grim tactical display, their faces etched with despair. Earth's governments, once united, begin to fracture under the pressure, each blaming the other for the impending doom. Anya, having barely escaped the decimated fleet, crash lands her damaged fighter. She stumbles out of the wreckage, coughing and bruised, the taste of defeat bitter in her mouth. As she gazes up at the sky, now dominated by the alien fleet, a flicker of defiance ignites in her eyes. "They may have won this battle," she mutters, her voice barely a whisper, "but the war is far from over." Chapter 2. The Quantum Theory. The sprawling underground bunker, a relic of the Cold War, now served as Dr. Evelyn Shaw's sanctuary. Its dimly lit corridors and humming machinery provided a stark contrast to the chaos raging above. Surrounded by screens displaying complex equations and alien glyphs, Shaw ran her fingers through her unruly hair, her eyes fixed on the flickering data from Petrova's encounter. "A fluctuation in the shield," she murmured, tracing the erratic energy spike on the graph. "It can't be a malfunction. There's a pattern here." Days turned into sleepless nights as Shaw immersed herself in classified data recovered from a crashed Zalax scout ship. The alien technology, a symphony of organic circuitry and shimmering crystals, seemed to defy human understanding. Yet with every decrypted byte, Shaw's theory solidified. "Quantum entanglement," she whispered, her voice filled with awe and trepidation. "They're manipulating the fabric of space-time itself." Shaw's hypothesis was radical. The Zalax shields weren't merely energy barriers. They were a complex web of entangled particles, flickering in and out of existence. If she could identify the resonant frequency that held the shields together, she could shatter them. Summoned to the UESF High Command, Shaw paced nervously before a panel of stern-faced generals and admirals. "Gentlemen," she began, her voice surprisingly steady, "I believe I've found a way to penetrate the Zalax shields." The room fell silent. A skeptical admiral leaned forward, his eyes narrowed. Dr. Shaw, he said, his tone laced with doubt, we've thrown everything we have at those shields, and nothing has worked. What makes you think your theory is any different? Shaw met his gaze, her conviction unwavering. Because, Admiral, we haven't been fighting them with the right weapons. We need to fight quantum with quantum. She outlined her plan. Modify a nuclear warhead to emit a specific frequency that would resonate with the alien shields, disrupting their entanglement and leaving them vulnerable. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. The plan was daring, bordering on reckless, but desperation hung heavy in the air. General Ramirez, the highest-ranking officer present, slammed his fist on the table. We have no other options, he declared. Dr. Shaw, you have our authorization. Proceed with your project. But understand this, failure is not an option. Shaw nodded, a steely glint in her eyes. She knew the stakes. Meanwhile, in a darkened hangar bay, Anya Petrova stood before a sleek, experimental fighter craft, its hull emblazoned with the UESF insignia. She ran her hand along its smooth curves, her touch lingering on the newly installed weapon bay. It was a one-way ticket, she knew, but it was also a chance to avenge her fallen comrades and make a difference. As she climbed into the cockpit, a familiar voice crackled over the comms. Petrova, are you sure about this? It was Shaw, her voice a mix of concern and admiration. I am, Anya replied, her grip tightening on the controls. I have a score to settle. The hangar doors slid open, revealing the night sky ablaze with distant explosions. Anya took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. Then, with a determined push on the throttle, she launched the X-1 into the darkness, her sights set on the alien mothership. Chapter 3. The Quantum Gambit. Hidden beneath the Nevada desert, in a labyrinth of tunnels once used for nuclear testing, a different kind of explosion was brewing, one of scientific ingenuity. The air thrummed with the energy of particle accelerators and quantum computers, their lights casting long shadows on the faces of Dr. Shaw's team. We're losing containment! A young engineer, his voice thick with panic, pointed at a screen flashing warning signs. A plume of smoke billowed from a malfunctioning cooling unit. Shaw, her brow furrowed in concentration, barked orders with the authority of a seasoned commander. Vent the excess energy. Ramirez, get those backup generators online. The team worked frantically, their movements a blur of white coats and safety goggles. Shaw, her hands steady despite the chaos, made minute adjustments to a complex array of superconducting magnets. This is it, she murmured, her eyes glued to a monitor displaying a pulsating waveform. The resonant frequency. After days of tireless work, fueled by caffeine and adrenaline, they had isolated the specific quantum frequency that held the alien shields together. Now the challenge was to amplify it and integrate it into a nuclear warhead. But their progress was not without obstacles. Supply lines were disrupted by the Zalax occupation, delaying the arrival of crucial materials. Equipment breakdowns became more frequent, their cause suspiciously inexplicable. Someone's sabotaging us, Shaw whispered to her chief engineer, Alex Mason, as they examined a severed power cable. We're not alone down here. The realization sent a chill down their spines. A mole lurking in the shadows was feeding information to the enemy. Trust, already a precious commodity, became even more fragile. Tensions rose as deadlines loomed. Arguments erupted between team members, their nerves frayed by exhaustion and paranoia. Shaw, normally calm and collected, found herself snapping at her colleagues. We're losing focus, she exclaimed during one heated debate. We need to work together or we're all doomed. A tense silence followed. Then a timid voice spoke up. Dr. Shaw? It was Emily Chen, a young astrophysics intern. I think I found something. Chen led them to a lab bench where she had been analyzing fragments of alien technology. She held up a shimmering crystal, its facets reflecting the dim light. Isotopian 9, she said, her voice filled with excitement. It's not on the periodic table, but its energy signature matches the resonant frequency we've been looking for. Shaw's eyes widened. This could be the catalyst we need. The discovery of Isotopian 9 ignited a renewed sense of hope. The team worked feverishly, integrating the mineral into the warhead's design. The once dim laboratory buzzed with energy, a beacon of defiance in a world teetering on the brink of despair. Chapter 4. The Final Countdown. The hangar buzzed with nervous energy. The weaponized hope, the quantum warhead, gleamed menacingly under the harsh lights. Its sleek casing hid the power to rewrite reality, a terrifying prospect in the wrong hands. Beside it, the X-1 prototype fighter stood ready, its sharp angles and dark metal a silent promise of retribution. Major Anya Petrova emerged from the simulation pod, her face pale, beads of sweat clinging to her brow. Days of intense training had taken their toll, but her resolve remained unshaken. The mission was fraught with risk, a suicide run into the heart of the Zalax Armada. But it was their only hope, a desperate gamble to turn the tide of the war. Across the hangar, Dr. Elizabeth Shaw oversaw the final preparations, her usually calm demeanor betraying a hint of anxiety. The weight of the world rested on her shoulders. The quantum warhead was her creation, her brainchild. But she couldn't shake the gnawing doubt that it was a Pandora's box, a weapon too powerful to control. As the final countdown approached, Shaw found Petrova in the quiet corner of the hangar, gazing out at the star-strewn sky. "Nervous?" Shaw asked, her voice barely a whisper. Petrova turned, a wry smile playing on her lips. "Aren't we all?" Shaw stepped closer, her eyes searching Petrova's. "This is it, Anya. Our last chance. The fate of the world rests on your shoulders." Petrova nodded, her gaze unwavering. "I know, and I won't let you down." A moment of silence hung between them, broken only by the hum of machinery in the background. Shaw reached out, her hand resting on Petrova's shoulder. "Be careful," she whispered. "Come back to me." Petrova squeezed Shaw's hand, a silent promise. The hangar doors slid open, revealing the vast expanse of space, a black canvas dotted with the twinkling lights of distant stars. The X-1 fighter, now armed with the quantum warhead, waited patiently on the launch pad, its engines glowing softly. Petrova climbed into the cockpit, her heart pounding in her chest. The countdown echoed through the hangar, a steady drumbeat of anticipation. 5, 4, 3. The hangar fell silent as the X-1 fighter roared to life, its powerful engines shaking the ground beneath it. 2, 1, The fighter shot forward, a streak of light against the dark backdrop of space. As it vanished into the void, Shaw watched, a mixture of hope and fear swirling within her. In the control room, chaos erupted as alarms blared and screens flickered. A high-ranking military officer, his face contorted with rage, pulled a gun on Shaw. He had been the mole all along, a traitor who believed the quantum warhead was too dangerous to use. "This madness ends here!" he shouted, his voice filled with venom. A struggle ensued, Shaw's arm grazing against a sharp edge, blood welling up on her skin. In the ensuing chaos, Petrova's voice crackled over the comms. "Shaw, get out of there! It's a trap!" Shaw dove for cover as the officer opened fire, bullets ricocheting off the metal walls. With a burst of adrenaline, she managed to escape the control room, the sound of gunfire echoing behind her. As she limped towards the hangar, she saw the X-1 fighter streaking back towards the base, pursued by a swarm of Zalax warships. "Anya, no!" Shaw screamed, her voice lost in the void of space. But Petrova was already gone, a lone warrior on a desperate mission to save humanity. Chapter 5. Cosmic Checkmate. Space twisted and warped around Anya Petrova as the X-1 hurtled towards the monstrous alien mothership. Her hands danced over the controls, a blur of practiced movements honed through countless simulations. Each dodge, each twist was a desperate gamble against the relentless swarm of Zalax fighters, buzzing around her like angry wasps. Pain throbbed in her arm where the betrayal had cut deep, a physical reminder of the sacrifice Shaw had made. Grief and rage fueled her, a burning fire that propelled her towards her target. Her breath came in ragged gasps as the strain of the battle took its toll, but she refused to falter. Not now, not when she was so close. The mothership loomed larger with each passing second, a grotesque monument to the Zalax destructive power. Its pulsating energy core glowed with an ominous light, a heart of darkness that threatened to consume the galaxy. "This is for you, Shaw," Petrova whispered, her voice barely audible above the roar of the engines. With a final burst of speed, she breached the mothership's outer defenses, a lone fighter against a seemingly insurmountable foe. The ship's interior was a labyrinth of twisting corridors and pulsating machinery. Alarms blared, and enemy fire rained down on her, but she weaved through it all, her focus unwavering. The core chamber lay ahead, its pulsating energy a beacon in the darkness. Petrova braced herself, her finger hovering over the launch button. This was it, the moment of truth. With a silent prayer, she released the quantum warhead. It hurtled towards the core, a tiny speck of light against the overwhelming darkness. Time seemed to slow to a crawl as Petrova watched, her heart pounding in her chest. The warhead struck the core, and a blinding flash of light filled the chamber. A shockwave ripped through the ship, tearing it apart from the inside out. The mothership convulsed, its once mighty form crumbling into a chaotic mass of debris. The quantum cascade unleashed by the warhead spread like wildfire, engulfing the entire Zalax armada. One by one, the alien ships exploded in a symphony of destruction, their shields powerless against the overwhelming force. Petrova watched in awe as the enemy fleet disintegrated before her eyes. A wave of exhaustion washed over her, but a triumphant smile spread across her face. She had done it. She had avenged Shaw and saved humanity. But her victory was short-lived. Back on Earth, Elizabeth Shaw stared in horror at the monitor, her face pale as a ghost. The quantum cascade had done its job, but it had also unleashed an unexpected consequence. A massive rift had opened in space-time, a gaping wound that threatened to tear the solar system apart. "Anya, come back," Shaw whispered, her voice filled with despair. "We need you." But there was no answer. Petrova was lost in the void of space, a hero who had sacrificed everything for a victory that had come at a terrible price. Chapter 6, A New Horizon. The rift hung in the sky like a gaping wound, its edges shimmering with an eerie, otherworldly light. It pulsed with a strange energy, a constant reminder of the devastating power unleashed by the quantum warhead. Elizabeth Shaw stood on the observation deck, her eyes fixed on the ominous sight. The world hailed her as a hero, the brilliant scientist who had created the weapon that saved humanity. But the weight of guilt pressed down on her shoulders, a heavy burden that threatened to crush her spirit. The rift was her creation, her responsibility. She had unleashed a force she didn't fully understand, and now the consequences were threatening to tear the solar system apart. "We can't give up," a voice said behind her. Shaw turned to see Captain Richard Mason, the grizzled veteran who had led the defense of Earth during the Zalax invasion. His face was etched with worry, but his eyes held a steely determination. "We've faced impossible odds before," he continued, "and we've always found a way to overcome them. This is no different." Shaw nodded, a glimmer of hope rekindling in her eyes. "You're right, we can't let this defeat us." Together they assembled a team of the brightest minds and bravest souls, a diverse group of scientists, engineers, and explorers. They repurposed alien technology salvaged from the wreckage of the Zalax Armada, combining it with their own understanding of quantum physics to create a vessel capable of withstanding the rift's unpredictable forces. The expedition into the rift was a journey into the unknown, a leap of faith into a realm of unimaginable dangers. The ship plunged into the swirling chaos, buffeted by gravitational distortions and bombarded by strange energies. Shaw stood at the helm, her hands steady on the controls. The rift shimmered around them, a kaleidoscope of colors and patterns that defied description. It was a place of beauty and terror, a testament to the infinite possibilities of the universe. Days turned into weeks as the team ventured deeper into the rift, their sensors picking up strange signals, hints of something extraordinary. They discovered remnants of advanced civilizations, long-lost cities floating in the void, and strange creatures that defied classification. "This changes everything," Shaw whispered as she examined the data. "The rift isn't just a threat, it's a gateway, a pathway to new worlds, new possibilities." The expedition returned to Earth, their ship laden with knowledge and artifacts from the rift. They had not found a solution to the crisis, but they had found hope. The rift was a mystery, a challenge, but it was also an opportunity. Humanity had faced extinction and prevailed. Now they would face a new horizon, a future filled with uncertainty, but also with the promise of discovery and advancement. The scars of war remained, but the spirit of humanity was unbroken, ready to embrace the challenges and wonders of the universe.